In this video, I'm just going through the homework for section R.5, so hopefully your questions are similar. We're asked to solve this first question, 8s equals 24. I put it over here. Since s is being multiplied by 8, then I can use the division principle to isolate s. And when you solve an equation, that's what you're wanting to do, is isolate the variable you're looking for. And so 24 divided by 8 is 3. So s is equal to 3. Question 2, use a couple principles, so multiplication and addition. Doesn't matter what order you use them, but typically it's easier to use the addition-subtraction principle first. So I want to isolate x, so I have to get rid of the 8 and I have to get rid of the 11. So to get rid of the 11, I'll do the opposite operation. If it's adding 11, I'll subtract 11. And I'll do that on both sides. So on the left side, I'll be left with 8x, because these cancel, is equal to negative 69 minus 11 looks to be about minus 80. And then I'll use the division principle. So I'll divide this side by 8 and divide this side by 8. And that'll get x by itself. Negative 80 divided by 8, negative 10. Okay, the next question, has some brackets in it. That's good. Okay, so I need to isolate x, but this time I've got two x's and I've got some brackets to deal with. Let's first deal with the brackets. So I need to apply that negative to both things inside there. So it'll be a negative 5x and a negative 7 is equal to 8. Maybe I'll collect like terms on the left side. 8x minus 5x is 3x. Minus 7 is equal to 8. Now I'll use the addition principle to get rid of that 7. Move it over. So I'll have 3x is equal to 8 plus 7 looks to be 15. And then I'll use the division principle. Divide both sides by 3. And that'll leave me with an x on the left side. 15 divided by 3, 5. Next set of questions. These ones involve fractions and inequalities. Right on. So I need to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide this side by a negative 7, and I'll divide this side by a negative 7. It's already a fraction though, so that's a little awkward. Let me write it this way, negative 5/7, and I'm going to divide it by negative 7. Okay, I could have put my divide negative 7 down there, but that makes it a complex rational expression, and it might be a little bit tougher to follow through. Okay, let's see what we have then. So these cancel, the negatives and the 7s. So I just have my x on the right side, which is good. Leave my inequality like that. Now here, if I'm dividing a fraction, I can multiply by the reciprocal. So I have negative 5/7 times 1 over negative 7. So I'll have x, and multiply the top, would be a negative 5. Multiply the bottom, would be a negative 49. The two negatives will cancel, so I would say x, and this sign, 5 over 49. Now that's backwards to me. The other thing I did wrong, I didn't do it wrong, but I forgot about it, was when you divide by a negative sign, you have to change that inequality. Let me go back and change those. Glad I remembered that. So it was less than, so this is going to be greater than. Okay, now if I have this, it's written backwards, so I want to flip it over. And I can just do that. I can flip and put the x here and the 5 over 49 here. But when you switch sides like that, this inequality changes. So it'll be less than or equal to 5 over 49. So I'm going to use this one right there, 5 over 49. All right, the next question, hopefully a little easier, just because there's no fractions to start with. Again, I have an x on the right side. Why don't I move that x to the left side? I'm just going to do that. I could just leave things on this side, but I like having my x's positive. So I'm going to add 8x there, add 8x on this side. So it'll leave me with 8x plus 20 is greater than 4. Notice I didn't divide by a negative sign, so I didn't have to change the inequality. Now let's subtract 20, subtract 20. So I'll have 8x greater than 4 take away 20 is negative 16. Oh, that'll come out nice. Divide both sides by 8, and you get x is greater than negative 2. So it's not this one, not the less than ones. It's this one. X is greater than negative 2. Okay. Oh, now you get to solve quadratic equations. And this is where your factoring comes into play. So you could use AC method to factor this. I'm going to just try and guess and check though. I'm going to put a 5b here and a b there and hope that it comes out. 54, 9 and 6 is 54. 18 and 3 I think is 54. Let's see which one of these will give me a 39. I'm betting these ones right there. Let's do a 6 there and a 9 there. And everything's plus. So let's see if that's where it's 30 plus, that's it right there. There we go. So now it's equal to 0. To solve this then, I use the 0 property, which means that something, that's this, multiplied by something else gives you 0. One of them has to be 0. So I can write 5b plus 9 is 0, or b plus 6 is 0. Solving this one, I'll subtract 9 on both sides, and then I'll divide both sides by 5. Okay, that'd be one answer. And my other answer, I'm just going to subtract 6 on both sides, so get a negative 6. So those two are my answers. It says to use a comma, so I'll go negative 9/5, comma, negative 6. Okay, another quadratic one, but this one's not equal to 0. So I have to first do that. So I have 20t squared minus 13t minus 15 equals 0. Once it's equal to 0, now I can try and factor. Another tough one to factor. I'm trying 20, let's go 5t and 4t maybe. And I have to get 13 out of the deal. 5 and 3, I think that'll work. Put a 5 here and a 3 there. The bigger one will be negative. This will be positive. I'm hoping. Let's just FOIL it and see. 5t is 20t squared, yeah. Minus 25t, and then a plus 12t. And together that gives you minus 13. That's what I'm supposed to get. Yes. So that means this is right. Again, 0 property says that either 5t plus 3 is 0 or 4t minus 5 is 0. Subtract 3 on both sides. Divide both sides by 5. Add 5 on both sides. Divide both sides by 4. So my two answers would be negative 3/5 and 5/4. Now those are answers, so it's not appropriate to put brackets in, because if you put brackets in, that indicates either a range or a point on the quadrant. So it's not appropriate to put brackets in. Okay, next one. Now this one I can do a couple different ways. This is a difference of squares, so I can just factor it. And it'll be a plus 2 and a minus 2. So either w plus 2 is 0 or w minus 2 is 0. Subtract 2 on both sides, add 2 on both sides. So my two answers are negative 2 and 2. I could have done it this way too, though. I could have added 4 to both sides, and then I could use the square root principle. And when you use the square root principle, the square and the square root cancel, but you have to remember that this side has to get a plus or minus on it. And then the square root of 4 is 2. Notice my answer's both the same. Okay, here's another one that would be, I think, the same as that one. So let's divide both sides by 3. So I get x squared is equal to 11. And then let's use the square root principle. So I get the square root of 11. When I use the square root principle, I have to remember I need a plus or minus there. So x will be a plus root 11, and a negative root 11. The next question, I could divide everything by 4 first. Let me just move up a little bit. So I could divide everything by 4. I guess I could have done that up above there too. So that'd be x squared minus 11 is equal to 0. And then I can't factor that, but I could take the 11 over to the other side, add it to both sides. Then I could use the square root principle. Oh, it's going to be the same as the one above there. Remember always to put that plus or minus there. So these cancel, leaving you with x is either plus root 11 or a minus root 11. All right, hopefully that helps you get through your homework for this section.